We just heard you talk about the attitude that we have towards art, and that if I may just sum it up very briefly, but if change is needed, we need to look at the way we look at art and the way we understand art. Can you expand a little bit on it? You had a beautiful talk before, but can you just say in a few words something about it?
I guess my basic point is that, you know, we always think like there's the real world of politics, of economy, of industrialism, materialism, where we exploit nature, where we everything is subjected to economic rules, and then there's art. Yeah. And art is like the big sort of other thing, except that some of it is, you could say, almost polluted by money. But otherwise, it's as such, it's something pure.
Part of the economic system nowadays.
But we like to consider it something purer or freer, or and I think my main point was to say, wait a second, it's not like that. It's been always intrinsically related to socio-economic structures. You know, if you look at a museum in around 1900, you can understand a lot about the society around 1900, and that counts for a museum around 1800 or 2019 the same way. Yeah. And actually that's why I'm studying museums and exhibitions, because I'm interested in long time value production. This is what museums do, you know. Political parliaments are administrating societies. I mean, they anyway change every 4 years. But if we go to a museum, we understand what we value. We value the producing individual in a higher extent. That's the artist. He makes an object, like many of us are involved in material production, or at least were in the 90s and up to the 20th century, in productivism and materialism. So a producing individual, but in a higher extent. Yeah. A genius producing the most sophisticated product of all. So first of all, they are intrinsically related, and that means the resource-hungry mindset that drives the rest of society is also underlying the sphere of culture and art. It's not separated from that. So in that way, art in the first place is not necessarily part of the solution, but also part of the problem.
Let me ask you a whole different question. We are here at a very sort of secluded setting. Verbier is a very nice secluded setting. We kind of created this isolated little weekend in which we can think and talk and listen to people like you. Is this a part of the solution? In what way could this format be inducative?
I mean, there is never one solution, right? But I mean, of course, I think change or transformation, however you want to put it, happens through trickle-down effects, you know? So if there's one teacher sitting in the audience or on her or his computer and understanding something and talking to his or her students the next day, it's great. We can do what we do, but impact is something difficult to measure, yeah? And there's kind of short-term impact, there's long-term impact, there's activism, which always aims for short-term impact. I'm climbing up this tree and I'm trying to prevent it from being cut. That's not going to solve our cultural attitude towards the climate, but it might have an immediate effect. This particular tree can be saved. So I think there's different forms of impact, and these kinds of events are important because, I mean, most of the people in the audience, you know, are influential people, and so of course it matters what they think. And probably they won't change everything, like, you know, from now on, but it hopefully helps a little bit.
What will be successful for yourself? What will be successful takeaway from the summit, what you've heard so far?
On different levels. I mean, first of all, interesting meeting encounters. Really, I met interesting people here, and I don't know if we can call it a success, because first of all, you understand how difficult, how all-encompassing, like from, you know, feminist initiatives in Brazil and their suffering and their connectivity to the environmental issues, to new forms of architecture. It's been extremely inspiring, but it's also very broad and massive in scale, and we are frustratingly at a very beginner's level, you know, with everything. You know, some 40 years after the eco movement started, the art world thinks, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Late, but better late than never.
Yeah.
And still, of course, it's a lot to be done. And I think what I wanted to emphasize also with my talk is that it's very nice to have artworks and exhibitions topics dealing with this, or nice curatorial text on wall text, you know, about how important all this is. But it's not going to change enough, because there's a new topic every 5 years. The changes need to be structural, also in terms of how and we think institutions, how we think the art space, the art experience, the idea of art in general. It implies a very fundamental process of self-questioning on many, many levels.